Gianpaolo asked the question, what is success? And Ghazala asked, who decides who's going to participate? Who speaks for the people in particular? Did you ask that or he did? I think in this room, it's us who are speaking for the people. And we're deciding what they should have, and we're evaluating whether they adopted it and whether they adopted it correctly. In Malawi, a lot of money has gone for AIDS, prevention and antiretroviral therapy. However, if you ask the people in the MOH, the Ministry of Health, or if you ask the people in the National AIDS Commission, they'd say we need more money. There are a high proportion of people who need antiretroviral therapy that aren't on it. We need more money for prevention. We asked in our survey, about 4,000 people, representative survey, how would you rank 5 resources that you want, interventions? Clean water, roads, agricultural development, schools, and more AIDS services. AIDS was at the bottom. We asked chiefs the same thing to see if there was a discrepancy. The chiefs ranked them all the same way. World Value Studies also asked national representative samples in 18 countries. Do you need more or fewer resources for AIDS? Fewer. Half of the 18 countries said fewer, and many of these were the high HIV countries. We did a bit of ad hoc qualitative interviewing, asking chiefs, why'd you say that? And they said, everybody needs clean water, but only a few people need the AIDS services. Because what they see is all the money going into ART and into the capital. So the question is, where is the demand for deliberation in this story? Who decides? I mean, we can sit here and say, well, they should have more money for AIDS. It's good for them. It's good for them to have deliberation. But do they want it? If they don't want it, are we going to abide by that and say, no, you can't have any more money for AIDS, it's going to go for clean water? That's it.
I haven't read the paper, so I think I was going to make an unfair comment that commentators, when they came back, I think, reflected more of your paper, so it'd be unfair. So my question to you would be, to what extent have you seen the nature of deliberation change according to the structure of the state, that the two cannot be independent? And second, we're discovering that deliberation in many of our investments, and we promote and we invest, many of our investments work if there is an audit process of central government that follows it. So just devolving powers to local government itself did not lead local governments to engage citizens, but when the center added an audit power to it, that I will penalize the flow of money if you do not engage citizens, created far more engagement between. So I wanted to see whether the structure of the state and also whether a central government had a more of an audit preference in oversight creates more of a deliberate function.
Okay, I have 2 really quick, low-level empirical questions.
Microphone.
I won't repeat that. My 2 questions are, first of all, the Cordoba story. Are neighborhood associations the real grassroots Democrats asserting themselves against the importing technocratic pseudo-Democrats? Or are grassroots neighborhood associations traditional clientelistic networks designed to preserve existing local inequalities and injustice? It seems that's important in terms of this story. And second, there is a case which you've carefully erased, which is Chicago's 49th Ward. Probably the case that you know best because you were most deeply involved in being the transferer. And also a case on which we have a second expert who has also studied empowered participatory governance in Chicago. So I think it'd be great to have just 30 seconds on what happened in Chicago and how's it different.
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of someone who's done a lot of deliberative work in London or in the UK, and on behalf of the previous Labour government, my organisation carried out multiple deliberative programmes, including future of the NHS, future of the written constitution in Britain, future of adult learning policy, the future of stem cell research, and work putting together a panel of parents who would go into deliberative dialogue with the Minister for Education over a 2-year period to review education research. And I think there were all kinds of mistakes in the work that we did, and I think many of the results of them were tempered by the kind of realpolitik of timetable and funding. And I think although I also think some of it was really pretty good. And I think one of the things I just want to push back on a little bit, if we're going to criticise blueprints, I think that has to be done in the context of the time and budget available for those involved in deliberative processes to actually do what it is they have to do. And until we've evolved to a point at which that kind of work begins within a timetable that's well in advance of the administrative timetable, you are stuck with those kinds of things. I think more seriously, though, is the funding issue. And I think to not discuss how much money it costs to do a genuinely representative deliberation is missing the point entirely. So in an advanced, democracy, or if that's what it is you would want to call it in the UK, the whole point of it was once, the whole point of the deliberations were to ensure that people who were not even bothering, weren't voting anymore, would be involved in policy making, and the cost of ensuring representative numbers of people were brought together was incredibly significant. You have to compensate people for them not going to work, or you have to provide childcare, or you have to, if you're going to use online techniques, you have to show people who are not currently online how to be online. The cost is tremendous. It's a significant investment of the taxpayers' money. And so I think there are good reasons why people roll out blueprints, and I think in order to critique them, we must also critique how much the taxpayer will be expected to fund these kinds of processes to make them mainstream if we believe that they're worthwhile.
I'd like to push back a little too. I'm worried about the drift that we've been going in, which seems to be so suspicious of ideas traveling and being able to be adapted without being sanitized and defanged and all. I think that there is a continual danger of that. But here we remember Gandhi saying, I want a house with windows and doors that are open, but not so open that they're blown down by the outside. And I think that the outside influence can and often should be able to contribute something without always feeling that it has to be adapted to local circumstances. Local circumstances are often very heterogeneous. Some of them are very retrograde, and some of them are progressive. And one of the advantages of deliberative processes is being able to scrutinize local norms and have local participants who often disagree with each other make some progress in improving those local norms. The municipality of Jesus Maria in Lima is interesting because it went through a first flush of working out its own kind of model of participatory budgeting, and then the next mayor ended up kind of capturing it, and as a technocrat taking the fangs out, and now people that I talk to in that community are saying we've got to take it back again and make it an instrument of local participation. These things are ongoing, and I don't think we should absolutize local views any more than outside views. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa benefited a lot from its communication with Chile and with Argentina, modified it and adapted it, to some extent changing the local culture that it was in the light of what was learned from the outside. So I think we have to keep this balance between outside and inside, and not reify either of them, but to recognize that good ideas can be valuable in making changes in local cultures as well as the other way around.